Guys, I don't think I can fix this one. It's too far gone. I guess we'll just put it on the burn pile and move on to the next piece. Just kidding, I can fix it. But it is really bad. I told you it was really bad. It's really bad. Look at this poor thing. It can't even stand up. It's on the surgery table, laying down here with every piece of it falling apart. Let me show you some details. Let's start from the bottom. We've got one good leg here. We've got another good leg here. Two's good. 2 out of 4 doesn't work. We've got this leg missing a cheek block here, just completely gone. And it's definitely been repaired really badly. We've got a big crack with glue squeezed out everywhere. We've got a giant screw. Then we've got another giant screw and more cracks. So that leg is needing so much help. And then we can shift over to the other leg, and this leg is completely broken off. We've got the big nail, which is original, sticking through the side. No one's screwed it together, so believe it or not, this leg is in better shape than the other one. So we've got it here, and it's broken. We can glue that one together. It still has its cheek blocks that they formed into the foot, so we'll copy that for the other leg. So that's good. Now, for some pretty terrible veneer work. Basically, the entire drawer is losing its veneer. This one seems to be okay. Probably loose somewhere, but it's all there, so that's nice. If you can just see the difference there. So, not really sure if I'm going to repair or replace. Kind of deciding that still as I go. And then on the top here, we've got veneer lifting all on this edge and missing here on the bottom. And then as well on the top, we've got big pieces missing all along the top here, all chipped and gone. They're nowhere to be found. So, I mean, there's not really a good way to repair such a large amount of missing veneer. So we'll probably have to replace. And I might be able to, I'm trying to think, can I steal veneer from one to make one good and then replace just one part? Still figuring that out in my head. So the top here, around the rounded top, it's splitting off. There's pieces missing and it's breaking everywhere. So that needs some help. And the other side as well, we've got a big chunk missing on the round over. And that needs to be replaced. We've got missing carvings here that are gone. And the finish is not in the worst condition, but it's gonna need a refinish after all these repairs. So inside, we're not doing too bad. We're just gonna clean this up, keep it as it is. We are putting an entire new back panel on. If you can see there, it's like a masonite board that someone's put on at some point, so that's not original. We need to get that all off. But in terms of the rest of the piece, the inside looks really great. And really cute little porcelain knobs here. Not sure if they're original. I do have a bag of a handle and some veneer. We'll see how that fits and where it fits. But this one's a, oh, there goes another piece. This one's a monster. So, first things first, let's take it apart, get everything taken off, and start repairing forever. After growing up in my dad's restoration shop and learning everything he knows, I'm continuing on with the business in my own shop. And after 25 years, I can truly say I love this job and I just have to share it with you. Whether it's a priceless 300-year-old hand-carved piece of history or just an ordinary table or dresser, I pour my heart into each and every piece a customer brings me. I'm Trena, and this is John's Furniture Repair. Okay, so I've got all the hardware off the drawers, and I've got a little repair on the cubby holes going on, just a little tear out from taking it off. And guess what I found? I got a piece of the leg in this bag of goodies. So that makes my life a lot easier. It fits right there. Let's see if the other piece is in here too. Yes, it is. Okay, winner chicken dinner. Is this the piece? Maybe this isn't the piece. That looks a little different. Oh well, it's still a lot easier. Oh no, here it is. There, so we've got that whole leg piece here that I can glue back on. So that is awesome. Alrighty, so I've been scraping all the glue off of everything and I've got it all clean. And as I presume, the fit's not great. You can see just on this piece alone, you've got quite a big gap there. It comes together and it's there, but it's not nice and close fit. So this is not a good candidate for carpenter's glue. Carpenter's glue works really great when you have a nice lamination with no gaps in between, nice flat surfaces together. So a couple of these pieces do fit nicely together. So what I'm gonna be doing is gluing this leg in stages. The feet fit nicely back on, and a couple of these pieces, like I've got 6 or 7 pieces here that need to be glued together and then glued back on. So it's gonna be kind of like a multi-stage glue up. So first thing I'm gonna do actually is glue up some of these smaller pieces together so that when I go to glue it back on the leg, it's not 16 little pieces that I'm trying to squish together in one spot. And I'm gonna use white glue to do the leg and some of the little bit easier pieces that still fit really nicely. So there's one little piece here. That fits perfect right there. And then we'll use our epoxy for these really bad fitting areas. Okay, so these 2 pieces right here fit together pretty good, but not awesome. So I'll leave that for epoxy. And this, just gonna put a little bit of pressure on there for a second. These are tough glue ups because you've got rounded edges everywhere, not a lot of clamping space. It can help to clamp a straight board onto the whole leg so that you can at least clamp onto something. But I presume that when someone tried to fix this before, they didn't have enough clamps or they didn't know how to get the right pressure in the right spots. So they just kind of slid around and didn't stay where they were supposed to stay. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna turn it this way, and there is a piece here that sits pretty nicely on here. But again, not perfect. So I'm gonna leave those for epoxy. And then this one for sure is for epoxy, but this piece here fits really nicely on to this one. So I'm going to glue this up now. Confusing, these little things. Good. And just make sure to keep the glue off of surfaces that I still have to glue other blocks to, because although glue scraping is so much fun, I think that's enough for one day. Okay, so I've got the legs in various stages of being glued up, and I thought I would tackle this veneer, and I've decided to remove this whole section here. I have a piece of veneer that looks like it might be a nice match to this, so I'm going to replace this whole piece and use this veneer, if I can get it off nicely, to repair the drawer and some of the top that has the pieces missing. So now it's a battle of me getting it off. I mean, it's pretty much off already, but I'm just going to be really carefully trying to get my putty knife and things underneath here to see if I can get this loose. And I can use water and heat, but first I'm just going to try to see if it's going to pop off easy with a putty knife, because it is stuck in the middle and I don't want to break it because I need to use this section for the drawer. So I want to really carefully see if I can get it to come nicely for me. It is feeling pretty stiff in the middle. So I'm going to flare it open here, and I'm going to run some water down. And I'm gonna shoot some heat into there, being careful not to scorch the veneer. Just to see if I can ask it to remove itself. Oh, exactly what I don't want. This stuff is very dry and brittle. Okay, so that's not gonna work. I am going to get my iron on here with some moisture and see if I can loosen all this area, try to get it to soften up a little bit more. Okay, so we got all that veneer off in mostly one piece, you say? 2 pieces? 3 pieces? 3 pieces isn't bad. I mean, there was a natural seam in the middle, so I'll take my wins. Now, here's a pet peeve of mine, something I cannot stand. This has been refinished before, and this isn't the original color. It was a darker color, which I think would look better on the piece. But anyways, besides that, someone got a hold of power tools, because, you know, when details are difficult to get stripper into and clean up, people always turn to power tools. And it really bothers me when I find stuff like this. You see all this choppy, scraped pieces of stuff just ground right out, probably a Dremel. I do not like Dremels very much. They're not useful in a whole bunch of situations, especially when people get their hands on them to do stuff like this, and they just tear up the wood and the detail, especially the corners. You know, someone just really went to town trying to get probably a very simple finish off of a detailed area. This is why we use chemical stripper, just because we're not looking to mechanically scrape and destroy profiles and wood surfaces. And a lot of times power tools are just way too aggressive when you can just use a stripper. There's even non-chemical strippers now that are pretty good. QCS is one that I should try. Anyways, this is, you know, they accidentally missed, so they got a big hole here and then a hole here where they started. It's just a mess everywhere, and it really bothers me because it's almost destroyed the piece. I'm glad that there's not evidence of it in more places that I've found yet, that is. But this area for sure, I'm gonna need to straighten out. So the only thing I can really do is either scrape this down deeper so I can get more of a flat surface and fix that, which is quite difficult and time consuming, or fill it and strip it and then do a bunch of fill work and then do some touch-ups. So, and then a lot of sanding after that too for the filler. So I'll probably do a bit of both. I'll try to scrape it as flat as I can, and then I'll definitely probably have some fill to do, and then we'll just have to deal with that in the finishing stages to get it nice and flat. Just makes the piece look really cheap, and I don't know, really takes that sophistication off of it. And a lot of the things that the maker did on this piece are really nice and really sophisticated, and I want to bring that back to the piece. And yeah, so we've got our pieces of veneer here that I've gotten off in fairly good shape. So I'm thinking of cutting strips of it here and doing some pretty serious splices in. So I'm thinking probably like this whole section, take off and put a new piece. And then maybe from this section on, remove all of this veneer and put a whole new section on. If I can get that much out of it, we'll see. And this is the other stuff I have here. It's got that flecking that I'm gonna use on the face, and hopefully I have enough to put onto the front again after we do all this other work. So I'm gonna strip this down and work on this, get it looking a little bit better, and see where we're at. Okay, so just got this guy out of clamps. When I hammer veneer, I usually end up clamping it just because it can pop a little bit overnight, and then you just have to come back with a hot iron and straighten it out a little bit. But if you give it a night under clamps, if you can get good pressure everywhere, you usually don't have those issues to deal with. But obviously we need to do some trim work, and it looks really good. I like how the grain lined up, and the seam is almost perfect. Just a little tiny gap right there. I get my head out of the way. But that looks good, so I'm happy with that. We have actually legs that are together. Did all of the epoxy on the big pieces that were not fitting well, and the legs have both of their cheeks on. So just need a good cleanup and a sand, but they are together and fully one piece. And I'm thinking about starting this drawer front today. So I've got it taped off here, and this is the section that I'm gonna save because most of it is intact here. So I'm gonna be replacing a strip on the end here and all of this basically. So I'm gonna work on peeling that off. I did leave some water sitting in it overnight just to get it moisturized again. So when I go in with the heat, it expands a little bit easier. But yeah, I took the drawer bottom off yesterday because it's gonna need a full cleanup and it's pretty smelly. So we're gonna get that all cleaned up and stripped and sealed. Now I wanted to take this whole drawer apart because there is a broken piece along the side here that we're gonna have to reglue. But these joints are super tight, and these little, it's like an L with a groove, kind of like a dovetail, but not the same idea as a dovetail, but you have to slide it out of the whole surface, and it just does not want to move, and these can break pretty quickly. So I'm just going to leave it alone and leave it together and clean it up and repair it while it's on here. So I'm going to get some heat going and see if I can get this veneer off. So the veneer I will put back is this piece that we took off of the front, and I've got it taped together here. So I need to steal pretty much this whole entire piece for this section here, and I might have to replace this with new stuff, or I might be able to get that section out of this area here. But I'm going to take the main section out of this part and hopefully get it to lay down nicely on there. So first things first, peel this veneer off and get it ready for fitting a new piece. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut right beside this tape so that my veneer breaks right where I want it to when I'm peeling it off. And this section I'm not gonna be super careful with. Oh, I meant to get my heat gun just because I'm not using this for anything. It's always amazing how the veneer is falling off everywhere, but just really stuck in some places. We can just scrape up all the old glue and whatever new glue has been stuck on here. And that's ready for new veneer. So I'll just get the other side off, and then we'll look at what we can figure out. Okay, so glue is hot. Just gonna get it out of my little crock pot there. And it's, the old brown glue is hide glue, essentially, but they've added something to shelf stable it. In essence, it's not as strong as the hide glue that you make yourself out of the pebbles. And I've done that before when I'm doing like a whole tabletop, but this is pretty comparable, and it tacks up pretty similarly to the hide glue if it's heated. So I use it even when it's not heated, because it does have a little bit of a liquid, and you only need to heat this a little bit, but it helps with the initial tack up if you heat it up. And it is pretty strong. It definitely does a good job for veneer, but I think that the original hide glue that you make from the pellets is a little bit stronger still, but this is good for this. So I'm just gonna spread a layer on both this and the back of the veneer. And I'm doing the hammering method of applying the veneer. So even though I do put it in weights or clamps overnight, you wouldn't even need to. You just, there's always like a little bubble or something, especially on a rounded part, that you need to deal with. And this is loose too here, so we'll have to work with that. But I want to get this on firstly. I was just trying to get as much use out of the old veneers because they're really nice and thick. Okay, so this is going to be a tough glue up just because it is on a curve, and sometimes it helps to leave it sit for a little bit. Okay, so now I can just hammer, and hammering veneer is just squeezing out all that excess glue and pushing the glue up into the grain of the wood. And because this is old veneer that I'm reusing, it won't soak up a whole lot because it's already been done once, but it'll still work out nicely. There'll be a couple of little chips here, and I need to add a strip here afterwards, but we're getting the majority of use from this antique veneer. Okay, so on this side I have a piece, and then I also need a strip that I need to add here, so I'm just going to get this glued up. Okay, so I'm going to let that tack up for about half an hour, and then we'll come back with the iron and work it a little bit. Get this tape off. There you can see where we're carving along that edge, just trying to cut it off with the grain. It's really tough in some areas to not let it split. Like right where this edge comes here, it kind of wants to grab and take pieces. So I'll just have to be really careful while I'm trimming all of this to not have that happen. But that'll take me a good hour here. Okay, so now that these are stripped and generally glued together, there's still not a lot of strength in these repairs because the fit was bad and they're all kind of right here, which is the stress point of the cabinet. So we need to add back some long grain into this piece to give it some strength. So with that, we're gonna use dowels. So basically across every break and every area that needs some extra strength, we're gonna run a nice dowel right through, and I'm gonna try to do it so I can hide them. Across this break here, I can hide it from the back and put a dowel right through this whole section. But here's the other thing, I need to bring this strength down as well into the leg. So I'm gonna be coming down from the top here at an angle into the meat of this leg to try to get that strength back right there to carry it. These little pieces I'm not going to do because they're glued and supported from the back and they're not really part of the strength of the leg. But if you see here, both legs have this stress point as right where the glue joint ends here, that lamination line is wanting to let go. So I do have to reglue this part here too as well, but I'm also gonna put some dowels coming through here just to give it some strength back. So both legs pretty much need that done, and they fit pretty good. I just put them on just to make sure that this dimension didn't change as we're doing all these glue ups. And so that's good. I just need to now add some extra strength. So I'm gonna use probably at least a 3/8 to 1/2 inch dowel, whatever fits best. You want to leave it enough meat in the leg, but also enough of a dowel to make some strength. So I'll use a hardwood oak dowel and we'll give these guys some extra help to keep these breaks back together. Okay, so I'm going to use a 1/2 inch maple dowel. I don't have oak, so I'm just going to use a maple dowel. And we'll start out with this guy coming right through here. So I'm just going to clamp it to the workbench because it doesn't really sit in a vise very nicely. And this was broke, if you remember, into 3 pieces. So I want to go right in between the 2 pieces we glued together. So right here in between these 2. And I don't want to come out the other side, so I'm going to stop it there and just measure it and see how we are. Good. So that will be number 1, which goes right through to right in between the break here to both sides right here. So there'll be a straight grain running right through that section there. Just have to be really careful not to do too much of an interference fit when I put that dowel in so it doesn't break that apart again. So that's good, but now we need to bring that strength down into the leg. So I'm gonna take from this section now, and I'm gonna come right at an angle into this leg to pull this piece here, which will be glued to this, into this. Okay, that's good. Almost came right through there, but that was difficult because really didn't have a lot of clearance there. So now we've got this coming this way and this way. And our last piece that we need to do is the 2 dowels coming here. So I'm gonna put that back on the workbench. Okay, so the veneer is all down and I sanded the finish off of this just so we didn't add any moisture to the 1 million veneer repairs that we did. There's a couple of fills. The old veneer was not perfect, but I'm really glad that we were able to use it and have that original veneer somewhere on the piece. So if you remember, there was a little suction here, so I've got to cut that back out. I've just got the lock off on the inside here, and I'm going to drill a couple of reference holes right through. Good. And then I'll be able to turn that over right here and just kind of push the center through. And then take my scalpel knife and just carve away the extra. Last thing I need, well, not the last thing, actually I still have to strip the inside of the drawer. All the stuff in here is needing to be stripped off. And also we need to repair this crack that's on the side here. So I'm gonna do that first because I'll get glue everywhere and then I can just use the finish to protect. It's pretty much the whole length of this side. So I'm just gonna split this joint and get some glue here. And I would say using the high glue, the most important places to use that very nicely reversible glue would be in joints and things that should be reversible. Stuff that you don't ever want coming apart again. Oftentimes I'll use the epoxy or a more permanent solution because I'm never expecting it to come apart again. This little drawer has been through so many rounds of repairs for, you know, all the veneer work on the face and the side and the bottom coming off, getting the inside cleaned up. Like, there's so many things to do on just one little piece that goes in a whole cabinet. This is one of the reasons why I started making these videos, was to help people understand just what goes into a proper restoration and why it might cost more than a restoration from somebody fixing stuff in their garage, which there's nothing wrong with fixing things in your garage, but just somebody who hasn't been trained professionally or had a lot of years of experience. Because a lot of these things just go missed in the DIY world, or they get repaired really improperly, or just looked over and ignored. So anyways, that can sit over night. We're on the long weekend here. I got bored sitting in the house and I was like, okay, should I clean the house? Should I do some baking? Should I go outside? No, it's raining. No, I don't feel like baking. No, I don't feel like cleaning. I'm gonna go to the shop. So here I am working on the long weekend because I love my job. All right, so over the weekend, I glued this whole section down. It was all lifted and cracked right here and everything was loose. So I got that out of the clamps this morning, and we've got a few pieces missing here. One here, this whole little strip here in this section. I do have one piece that goes back here, kind of like that, which makes it very awkward to repair, but we'll put it back anyways. And so we need to make a couple of strips for there and something like this. And I want to inlay them. I don't want to cut out a long strip because I don't want to glue over this curve as much as possible because it's tricky. So first one I'm going to make, I'm going to cut right here. It was sanded quite heavily to fade into this piece here. So it's very thin. So I'm going to, it's even, you know, this is still sticking over, so it didn't have to be sanded that much. So I'm gonna actually take off right from this line here and take off all this really skinny stuff right here, because it's, and I'm gonna bring it right into this point, because that'll be the best fade line. And then I'll just kind of chip this off. And I tried to pick a veneer with these flecking, if you can kind of see here, these little tiger flecking, whatever you call them. These hard grains here, that's what those are. I don't have anything exactly like this, but this will do. It's what we used, the same veneer that we used on the face. Okay, so I've got it all cleaned up here, and I've decided it'll be a nicer, cleaner repair if we just do one big piece here. So I'll use this piece on one of these repairs. So I'm just gonna need to make a little template first. And I'll use some tracing for that. And kind of a really weird template, but we'll just do our best here. Okay, so I'll cut this out now. I can glue it on right in that section. That'd be perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to use a little bit of hide glue. And it has to run this way. I'm going to start at the skinny end. That would break out if I started the other way. And at the end, I'm just going to press it instead of pulling it. 2 passes should do it. There. And then I'll get some new hot hide glue on there. I'll pop those in. Okay, now I can get this hinged down into its spot. Well, we'll leave that and see how it works out. So now for these guys, I think I can probably use this piece in here, right about there. Got everything else taken care of, and it's time to turn all of my attention to the cabinets. And this veneer is still drying that we glued up this morning. So I need to refasten both of these, they're loose, and take care of some mold spores in here that just need to give a good wash with some methyl hydrate. They're not active anymore, but I just want to clean it up. So I'm going to get these guys out of here to re-glue them in. That's just going to come out. It's barely in there. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I've just numbered these where they go, and I'm gonna add some wood and plane them down again so they're brand new. That one's not that bad. This one has maybe a 1/16 of wood missing, but I'll add this on and then plane it back down to the original height. I'm going to sand this inside first with my dust collection sander. Festool has a great HEPA collection system. They really catch every spore, but I'll also put a mask on while I'm doing this, and then I'm going to soak it down with the methyl. I'm just going to seal this side inside. The alcohol is dried. Everything is smelling really good right now, but I'm just going to give it a seal because why not? You know, a lot of people say that shellac is a good sealer, which it is, but a lot of the reasons it kills the smell of things inside cabinets is because it's an alcohol-based finish, which is why it does such a good job at killing things and disinfecting things, and then the shellac kind of seals it up. It's actually quite a breathable finish. So I like to do a pre-alcohol treatment on stuff like this, just to really concentrate the alcohol. Let it dry, don't wipe it off. And then go with the shellac afterwards. You get kind of a double alcohol treatment. All right, it is the next day, and I've got these out of the clamps, looking really good. Nice seam here. I'm glad I did one whole piece. So I just need to sand that out. And this one here was pretty good. Missed a little bit of this. We'll just put some putty in there. And then this one I wanted to do in 2 sections, but there ended up being a giant hole underneath the veneer here. And when I was working around it, it just kind of popped through. So there was a void. I don't know if it was from this whole situation in here. So I think I'm gonna put some epoxy putty in this hole just to support this whole area here. I don't know why there's a hole here and stuff missing. So Then I just decided to do one whole strip here, which looks fine as well. So I'm gonna give this a little sand with 120, and then I'm gonna strip the side and finish carving these little nibs here that we put on for the little pieces that are missing on the carving here. And yeah, we can get to actually stripping this finish off. I'm just doing a dry fit on these legs and everything looks pretty good. So I'm gonna epoxy these on because this is a pretty high stress point and it's already had a million breaks. And you can see our dowels all in here. The leg is good and strong now, but I wanna make sure that this joint here gives it even extra strength. So I'm gonna use epoxy here and I'll use the West system. And I've just got it mixed up here. Okay, so there's the setup. Okay, so I've got the clamps off this morning and the legs are nice and sturdy. Everything went on really well. So now I need to clean up the back here. I'm gonna shave this down a little bit with my little sander, and this one a little bit too down here. And I'm gonna drill a hole right through here into this piece to attach here, just one. And I will be putting a nail through this section here into the leg there. So.
The authors assessed the nutritional content in dozens of globally important seafood.
And if so, when did we lose it?
And I'm sure lots of you have wondered about this troublesome question. Why can't the human immune system get rid of it?
On her feet and almost there, looking really great. So now let's think about some color. This wood is actually pretty colorful naturally. Let me just show you. Just wipe some alcohol across here. And that's kind of the color that we want to stay with. But I do need to stain this because there's a lot of repairs and a lot of different tones, and we have new veneer and we have a new back panel. So I want to do a stain over everything, but I'm going to keep it pretty much this color. So it's kind of tricky because the new wood, the plywood and the new veneer that we have on the piece, they're going to want to stain up pretty neutral. And the rest of the old wood is going to have that really warm undertone. I want to stain everything with this color, which is Special Walnut. And this is a discontinued Varathane color that I wish they didn't. But I'm going to have to start on these pieces by making them orange first. So I'm going to start them with Old Masters Maple. Oops. And this has got this color here, which kind of brings it in the zone of the old oak color on the rest of it. And then we'll put this over top. So it'll be a two-stage process on all the new stuff. And so I'm probably gonna do that first, and then we'll just go over everything with the Varathane stain. So let's get some color rolling and see how everything looks. Okay, so I'm gonna, now that the cabinet is stained and drying for the day, I'm gonna tackle all of this really pretty Victorian brass hardware. And a couple of these locks were really badly rusted, so I'm gonna put these guys in vinegar and let the vinegar do its thing. And we'll scrub those up tomorrow. And then these guys I'm gonna spray with the Flitz Instant Brass Polish. So I'll get you guys in closer here so you can see how it works. Just gonna get it all pretty good. This handle here, I'm not sure if I'm gonna use, it would have been on the front. We'll see, it looks kind of big for the cabinet. I'll just buff that polish off. Terry cloth to give it that final shine. Gorgeous. This is really nice hardware. There we go. Really, really pretty. Really comes up. So the last piece of the hardware that we need to deal with are these little porcelain knobs with these ginormous screws that definitely are not original. They are two different screws and they're just not meant for a showpiece. So those we'll need to get rid of. I've got a couple of antique brass panhead screws, but they're not bolts, so we're gonna need to fill the holes on the drawers. So I'm just gonna use a square peg, and that just helps to grab into the sides of the hole a little bit better, I find, because I want to screw these on to get them nice and tight. So I'm just going to force that down. And then we'll just drill out a new hole in the center of that piece. And that will be the new look. So I am gonna shine up this knob as well and clean the porcelain. So I'm just gonna take this off again. Set that aside. I'm gonna take both of these. Just got some crud on them from years. They're really quite pretty little handles. Give them some soak in the crud cutter. And then these guys, I'm just gonna sand. There's a little bit of damage on this one screw. These are old screws, so they're getting a second life. So much more life to the clean porcelain. And there was kind of something down there. I think it was just dirt. But anyways, so that'll look really pretty with the little brass screw in the center. And I'll patina that a little bit, just so it's not super, super shiny, but I think that's a much nicer way to do this. There she is, looking totally put together and gorgeous. Welcome back to the Living Fine Lady. You are beautiful. Let's take a look at all of the repairs that we went through. Just to recap, we got our little veneer patches here and here as well. You can see in the sunshine, this is one of them. And over here, we've got another. Did our little carvings. The tips were missing as well. This whole section here was missing, and these two little tips as well. We completely re-veneered this entire front and did quite a bit of work trying to straighten these guys out, and they still do have a little bit of that wave, but it looks much better. Everything cleaned up on the inside as well. Lots of character still. Completely refinished the cubby hole and put some pretty new pan head brass screws on these little porcelain knobs. And you can see our back panel back there, nice oak instead of masonite. And then we've got our drawers. These were in rough shape. If you remember, all of the veneer was falling off this bottom one. And isn't it just a really cool thing that this veneer that's on this section and this section was up here? So it is veneer that's supposed to be with this piece, and we saved it and used a lot of it in repairs everywhere, actually, even on the top. And look at that hardware shine, gorgeous. Really, really pretty stuff. This is a higher end piece. It would have been. Drawers refinished. Looking great. And these legs, oh my goodness, they are looking beautiful. You can see our 1 million repairs. We've got our little one mounting screw down there. Doing their thing. So, yeah, it looks really, really good. I'm so happy to bring this one back. It's such a pretty little piece. And in honor of my fellow equestrian and mechanic and all-around amazing woman, I just want to dedicate this video to Queen Elizabeth. She was an amazing woman. And if you don't know much about her, there's a lot of reasons I love her. Check it out. So thank you so much for joining me on this resurrection video. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And if you did and you want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below the video. And I just really appreciate you guys and the community that has grown so much over the last almost 2 years of this channel. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Check out our other videos. We've got plenty of resurrections. And have a great day. Cheers.